After DAX in Power BI, the next tricky thing to work with is bookmarks. Though bookmarks are straightforward to create, it can get complicated pretty fast. Just like DAX is simple, but not easy. In this video, I'll share with you a step-by-step approach you can use as a guide to ensure a smooth bookmarks life. If you want to learn about the details and settings of bookmarks, you can check Guy in a Cube's video, and I will drop the link in descriptions below. My name is Ahmed Oyelo, and if you are finding this channel for the first time, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can always get notifications for every video that we drop. Let me start by running you through the steps, and then we are going to use those same steps approaches to create some bookmarks. So step 1 is you have to design all your required states on paper. Step 2, you need to have all objects required based on your design. In step 3, you are going to add the number of bookmarks you have according to the states that you have defined. And then in step 4, you are going to adjust your report page object as required and update the bookmarks one by one. Now, if this all sounds too technical, then I'm going to show you each of these steps one by one as we replicate the exact same slides I have on this Power BI. So step 1 says that I should design all required states on paper. And I have something like this. I have my default state when nothing is selected, and you can see that all you have there are numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've used the blue color to signify that nothing is selected. Thereafter, if you click on number 1, then number 1 is going to be shaded in black color, while the remaining ones are going to remain in blue color. And then when I select that number 1, then I should see the first text, which is step 1, right? And then when I click on number 2, then I want to see number 2 shaded, in black, while all the other ones remain in blue. And I also want to see, the text for number 2, right? And I'll repeat the same thing for steps 3 and step 4 as well. So now that I have designed mine on paper, I can see that I have 4 states to design, maybe 5, but let's just say 4, right? So if I count the default state, then we can say 5, but let's just ignore the default state for now, and let's stay with the 4 states that I've designed here. So that's step 1, design all required states on paper. Now let's see what's on step 2. On step 2, you want to have all objects required based on your design. So this is my design. And if you look at the design right now, you will see that if I start to count the different kind of object that I have, for each state, you will see that first I have the circles that display the number. Sometimes those circles are displayed in blue, and sometimes they are displayed in black. So I'm going to make sure that I have all those circles, the blue ones and the black ones as well. So I'm currently on a blank Power BI now for this demonstration, and I will basically just go on to Insert tab. Then I can select shapes, and I want to select this oval shape. Okay, so I can just do the readjustments the way I like it to be, right? So for this first one, I want to write in number 1 there. But how you would like to work with this is you want to make sure that you have everything properly organized, right? So to do that, I'm going to go to my View tab, and I will enable my selection pane. So I will rename this. I can just double click. Then I want to rename this as step 1, then on selected. You will see the benefits of using this my naming convention later. So this is step 1 on selected. Then I will go to style, and I will go to text and put on the text. Then this is going to carry number 1. And I can increase the size maybe to 30. Now to create numbers 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5, I'm just going to select this step 1, and I'm going to use Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V to copy and paste. Then I can drag this one out, and obviously I'm going to have to rename this as step 2 unselected. Then I want to go to style, and I want to change the text here from 1 to 2. I will basically just repeat the same steps for steps 3 and step 4. Now I have the 4 of them. It's just a matter of properly aligning this. So I'm just going to drag my step 4 to the extreme right. Then I can select 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then go to Format, go to Align, and select Distribute Horizontally. Now this represents my blue shaded numbers. And if you remember, based on our design, I still have the black shaded numbers. I'm going to need to create those black shaded numbers as well. So for that, I can select number 1, for example, Ctrl C, Ctrl V to copy and paste. Then for this one, I will just go to rename this as step 1 selected. And of course, I need to go to style and make these have a black fill color. So that's my step 1 selected. Now I want to create step 2 selected. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Change the name of this to step 2 selected. Then go to style, go to text, and rename this as number 2. Then I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing for steps 3 and step 4 selected. Now again, I have my 4 selected shapes, and I just want to align them properly. So I'll just drag this number 1, and I'll make sure it's aligned to the top left hand side. Then I can drag the number 4 and make sure it is aligned to the top right hand side. Then I'm going to select 1, hold Ctrl select 2, hold Ctrl select 3, hold Ctrl select 4. Then I'll go to Format, go to Align, and I will start by aligning top. Then I will go back to Align and Distribute horizontally. Okay, now I've got all my shapes. Now the next object that I have, if I go by my design, are the text boxes, and I have 4 of them, right? And I want to use these text boxes basically just to write out the steps that we are going to be creating. So I can go to Insert, go to Text Box, and just increase the size of my text box, and I'll start typing out what we need to have, right? So I need 4 text boxes and 4 different texts. For me, I'm just going to paste the text that I have from the other PBIX file. Now, once I paste in the values, I need to make sure that I also go to the selection pane and rename these properly. So I'll call this step 1 text. Now I'm going to select this text box, and I'm going to Ctrl C and Ctrl V, copy and paste. And for this second text box, I want to have my second text in there. So I'll just, copy the values from my other Power BI desktop file, and I'll paste it right here. So that's my step 2. Okay, so now I have all my texts, and again, it's just a matter of alignment. So I'm going to use my selection pane to select my step 1 text to step 4 text. So select each one of them using my Control key to select multiple items. And I want to first of all align center. Then I'm going to align middle. I can adjust this. One last thing I want to do is I'm going to try to group each of the different object types that I have here. So I want to select this step 1 up to step 4. Then I'm going to right click on any one of them, and I'm going to group this, and I can rename the group as texts. Then I can select my selected shapes, right click on any one of them, group, and I'm going to rename this as selected. Then I can highlight the unselected ones, right click, group, and call these ones unselected. Now if I go back to my design, I think I have all the objects that I need to use here. There are blue shapes, there are black shapes, and then there are 4 different texts. And I have everything I need. So let's go and look at step 3. For step 3, we want to add the number of bookmarks for the states that we have. Now, the states in this case are the different things we want to see when we click on a button that activates the bookmark, and we have 4 buttons now. So I basically have 4 different states. So I'm going to go to my demo file, and what I'll do is I'll go to my view tab and I'm going to enable bookmarks pane. Now, because I have 4 states, I will click on the add button 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I'm just going to rename each one of them with a sensible name, right? So for me, I'll just go to bookmark 1 and I'm going to call this states 1, states 2, and that's it for step 3. So step 3 is to add the number of bookmarks for the states, which I have done. Then let's go to step 4. Step 4 is where we have to adjust report page object as required and then update our bookmarks. We just created the 4 bookmarks, without really updating it to look the way it's meant to look like, right? Now on step 4 is where we get to do that. So let's start with state 1. So in state 1, we're going to have text 1 showing, and we're also going to have the number 1 shaded in black. So for step 1, the text that needs to show is text 1. Therefore, hide all the other text except text 1. Then for step 1, I need this shape here to be the selected value of step 1. Therefore, this shape has to be black and not blue. So if I go to the unselected one, I want to hide the blue one for step 1. And I want to make sure that the black one is showing. I also want to ensure that it is the only black one that is showing. Therefore, I need to make sure that I hide the selected states of all the other numbers. Okay, now this is what my step 1 should look like. Then I can go to my state 1 here, but before I do that, I want to make sure that I first of all select one of these guys. Press Ctrl A on my keyboard to highlight all. Then I'll go to my state 1 and I'm going to click update. Now let's design state 2 as well. So for state 2, text 2 should show and the number 2 should be black. All other numbers remain blue. So if I go back to my demo file, the text that should be showing for state 2 should be text 2. Therefore, I'm going to make sure that I hide all the texts and I'm showing only text 2. Then for the numbers, all the numbers have to be blue except number 2. So I want to make sure that I hide all the selected values. All other selected values must be hidden except step 2. And obviously, all the unselected values have to show except for step 2, right? So I'm going to make sure step 1 unselected value is also showing, but step 2 unselected value is hidden because it is the selected value of step 2 that I want to show. Now I have my step 2 showing exactly the way I want it. I can select one of these objects, press Ctrl A on my keyboard, then I'll go to state 2 and I'm going to update. Now let's go with state 3. On state 3, text 3 should show and the shape of number 3 should be black. All other shapes should be blue. Therefore, for my state 3, the text that I should have showing should be text 3. Therefore, all the other text should be hidden. Only text 3 should show. Again, all the shapes here should be blue except shape number 3. Therefore, if I go to my selected states, I want to make sure that the only one that should be selected, that should be showing, should be number 3. Okay? And for the unselected states, I want to make sure that every other number, I have their unselected shapes showing. So number 4 should show, number 3 should not show, number 2 and number 1 should also show. This is what my step 3 should look like. Then I'm going to select one of the objects here, Control A to highlight all of them. Then I will go to state 3, ellipses, and update. Then I can repeat the same thing for my state 4. So now that I have all the bookmarks properly updated, it's time for me to assign them to buttons and to also test, right? So I want to make sure that first I return to the default state. In the default state, the only thing I have are the numbers showing in blue. So I'm going to make sure that I have that same display here. Okay, now what I've done here is I've hidden all the texts and I've also hidden all the selected states, which are the black ones, and the only thing I have showing are the unselected states, which matches with what my default looks like. Now the next thing is for me to assign each of these values to the buttons. So I'm going to double click on the first one here to select that. Then I'll come to my format pane here and I'll put on action, expand the action. The type is a bookmark. And the bookmark for this is state 1. I'll repeat the same thing for number 2. Put on the action. The type is a bookmark. And the bookmark is state 2. Now I'm going to repeat the same thing for state 3 and state 4 as well. Okay, I'm done, and it's time for me to test my bookmarks and the buttons. So let me just minimize or close each of these other panels and minimize this one. So when I click on state 1 using Control and click, I get the step 1, which is to design all our required states on paper. Now after you design all our required states on paper, step 2 is where we get to have all the objects required based on our design. Okay, and then on step 3, we want to make sure that we add the number of bookmarks for the states that we think we need. That's more or less like the number of clicks that we think we need here. And then on state 4, we are going to make sure that we update all the objects accordingly. We want to create that update so that every time we click on each of these numbers, they display what we expect them to display.